This day in sports history. It's December 9th, and on this day throughout sports history, we had a broken record, a badly broken nose, and a jailbreak that turned a no-win situation into a very much of a win situation. Plus, sneakers played a part on this day, both the shoe variety and the person variety. All that plus a non-sports fun fact about Christmas trees coming up at the end. Plus, you'll find out why Rob Gronkowski had to watch a Will Ferrell movie on this day. Stick around. Excitement awaits in just a few. This episode is brought to you by Firefly Books. From frozen ponds in small-town Canada to packed arenas under bright lights, hockey's journey is 150 years strong. Hockey Hall of Fame Timeline of the Game takes you through it all. 8 defining eras, hundreds of rare photos, legendary names, game-changing moments. Created with the Hockey Hall of Fame, this book is a visual time capsule of the sport's most iconic chapters. Whether you're a die-hard fan or looking for the ultimate holiday gift, Timeline of the Game is a must-have for every hockey lover. Pick up your copy today at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or bookshop.org. Let's start with what happened on this day in 2018, when the Miami Dolphins pulled off a miraculous finish. This was a Week 14 matchup between the 9-3 New England Patriots and the 6-6 Dolphins. This was a pretty good back-and-forth affair. There were 8 lead changes throughout, with neither team holding a lead larger than 6 points. Patriots kicker Ryan Gostkowski missed the PAT after the Patriots put 6 on the board in the first quarter, and then he made Bill Belichick seethe even more when he missed a field goal later in the game. His 2 fourth-quarter threes, though, did give New England a 5-point lead, with his final one coming with 16 seconds left in the game. With 7 ticks of the clock remaining, the Dolphins had the ball at their own 31. Options were limited, and with the Patriots putting Rob Gronkowski deep in coverage to guard against a Hail Mary throw, the win percentage against the defending AFC champs was pretty close to 0. But there was a chance. Here's Ian Eagle with the call.
Tannehill will throw it, and this will end it after the shovel, or will it? Miami running around, circling. Oh, look out! Gronkowski didn't have the angle. Touchdown! Oh, Kenyon Drake! A miracle!
No need to kick the extra point thanks to Gostkowski's earlier misses, and the Dolphins won the Miracle in Miami 34-33. Gronkowski, who failed to catch up with Drake on that final play, was upset after the game, understandably, but he salved that wound on the plane ride home, watching Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart and Get Hard. It was hardly a dent in the chrome for the Pats, though. The Patriots went on to win their 6th Super Bowl in franchise history 2 months later. On this day in 1984, Eric Dickerson eclipsed OJ Simpson as the NFL's single-season rushing leader. Dickerson grew up a fan of OJ's. He wanted to play running back because of OJ. As a high school kid in Sealy, Texas, he rushed for 2,000 yards in a season twice. During his senior year in 1978, he was being recruited by just about every big school in the country, with one of those being USC, OJ's alma mater. On his recruiting trip out to SC, he was invited to watch a Trojan practice prior to their Rose Bowl game against Michigan. And Simpson, at this point closing out his career in San Francisco with the Niners, was also at the practice. The high school Dickerson walked up shyly, and he introduced himself to OJ, and he told him that he hoped to not only play in the NFL one day, but that he hoped to break his single-season rushing record of 2,003 yards set in 1973. As a rookie with the LA Rams in 1983, Dickerson broke the rookie season rushing record with 1,808 yards. Now in his second season in the league in 1984, Dickerson was primed to make a run at the record. After 14 games, Dickerson had 1,792 yards. Next up on the schedule on this day were the Houston Oilers, the team that was less than an hour drive to Dickerson's home in Sealy, and yet a team he definitely did not want to play for coming out of college at SMU. He said it was a team going nowhere. Well, the Oilers did not exactly take those words very well, and they vowed a little bit of revenge on Dickerson on this day, and they said throughout the course of the week in the lead-up just how average a running back Eric Dickerson actually was. Well, Dickerson turned those words into fuel, and he ran all over him on this day. With 3.5 minutes left in the game, Dickerson had 26 carries for 206 yards, and he needed just 5 yards to tie, 6 yards to break OJ Simpson's record.
And the fans are going crazy. They want to see the record, and they want to see it right now. He needs 6 yards, everybody, for a National Football League single-season rushing record, and they're all on their feet for Eric Dickerson.
That call is a bit underwhelming for such a historical moment, but the crowd erupted after watching Dickerson gain 9 yards on that play, and he finished the day with 215 yards rushing. Now, the original plan was for Dickerson to actually break the record the next week against San Francisco, when it was slated to be a national TV broadcast with Simpson in the booth as the color analyst. Dickerson had 98 yards in the final regular season game to finish the season with 2,105 yards. Many have tried to catch Dickerson, but after 40 years, he's still on top of that list. Adrian Peterson came the closest, finishing just 9 yards shy of topping the mark in the 2012 season. On this day in 1934, it was the sneakers game. Abe Cohen stood 5 feet tall and weighed 140 pounds. He was not muscular, he didn't look like a football player, and in fact, he wasn't. But Abe Cohen may have been the most important person for the New York Football Giants on this day. This was the 1934 NFL Championship game between the Giants and the Chicago Bears. The temperature was barely in double digits. The tarp that covered the Polo Grounds field was frozen to the turf underneath. It took a while to reveal the ground underneath, but seeing it just confirmed what they already knew. The ground was more of a block of ice than a football field. After the field was inspected, Giants head coach Steve Owen let his players know that it was going to be tough treading out there. With no soft ground to plunge a cleat into, it was going to be an early version of the Ice Capades rather than championship football. Giants captain Ray Flaherty was a Northwest guy, and he'd played collegiately at Gonzaga. He remembered a similar situation during his college days when instead of spikes, the players wore sneakers, and things went pretty well for him. In today's NFL, it would be no problem to switch out shoes. A team would have myriad choices to choose from. But in 1934, it was not as easy to do. The team didn't have a cage full of sneakers. But trying to find some on a Sunday morning also presented a challenge. None of the sporting goods stores were open, and that's when the undersized Abe Cohen enters the story. Cohen was a tailor by trade, and he worked for Manhattan College. Part of his duties were to sew the athletic uniforms, and when he heard about the shoe idea, he piped up and said he had a key to the Manhattan athletic supply closet. He could get his hands on some basketball high tops. So, off Cohen went. Traveling on a Sunday in New York City was also a bit different in 1934. It took Cohen a while to actually return to the Polo Grounds. In the interim, the game kicked off with everybody wearing football spikes. Now, it should be said that the Bears were the defending NFL champs, having beaten New York the year before. They were heavily favored in this game, having won all of their 13 games that year. The bigger, stronger Bears beat up on the Giants in the first half. Starting running back Ken Strong was knocked out of the game for a bit after being trucked by Link Lyman. The Bears led 10-3 at halftime, and that's when Abe Cohen finally returned to the Polo Grounds with 9 pairs of sneakers. Not all of the Giants were sold on this idea. Strong had recovered from his first-half knockout, and he put the basketball shoes on. When his teammates saw how easily he was able to navigate the frozen surface in the second half, well, they became convinced and swapped out their spikes for sneakers too. Chicago Bears coach George Halas was obviously not happy, and he started screaming, "This ain't basketball!" Well, he might have tossed in an expletive, but you get the point. He tried to convince the referees that wearing spikeless shoes was illegal and said the Giants should put their cleats back on. But there was no rule in the rulebook against it, and his pleas fell on deaf ears. Halas then instructed his players to stomp on their opponent's feet, but they had trouble getting close enough even to attempt to plant a cleat into a metatarsal. The Bears kept on slipping, the Giants started running, but they were still trailing. The Bears put another field goal on the board in the third quarter, and it was 13-3 Chicago. The game began to turn on a simple handoff to Strong, though. He was able to find some firm footing and cut and scissored his way for a 43-yard touchdown run. The Giants stopped Bronco Nagurski's 4th and short attempt to get the ball back, and then they went on a rampage. They scored touchdown after touchdown, putting up 27 points in the final 10 minutes of this one to rout the champs 30-13. It was a shocking result. Giants fans stormed the field at the final gun and tore down one of the goalposts. In the New York American newspaper the following day, writer Lewis Burton wrote, "To the heroes of antiquity, the Greek who raced across the marathon plain, and to Paul Revere, add now the name of Abe Cohen." Sure, a bit of hyperbole there, but on this day, the diminutive Cohen stood on the shoulders of giants by coming through with as clutch a play as any drawn up in the snow on the frozen Polo Grounds turf that day.
And that's the end of the first half. As the teams head to the locker room, the Spartans lead the Bulldogs by a score.
You guys stink. Geez, Coach, we're only down a couple of points. No, I mean you guys really smell. You need to hit the showers. And here, I got every one of you new bars of soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Each bar is artisan crafted using natural ingredients and essential oils. They also have shave soaps, colognes, beard balm, and a whole lot more. Now get in there. But Coach, we have another half to play. I don't care. I can't stand to be around you.
A few minutes later.
All right, bring it in tight. You guys are still playing terrible, but you're smelling great out there. Now listen, you're going to need to stock up for the rest of the season. We got a lot of tough games left. So go to sterlingsoap.com after the game. That's STIRLING soap.com. You got that? Yes, Coach. Great. Sterlingsoap.com on 3. 1, 2, 3. Sterlingsoap.com. On this day in 2001, George O'Leary was hired as Notre Dame's new football coach. Bob Davie had been fired on December 2nd following back-to-back losing seasons in South Bend. O'Leary was hired to do for the Irish what he'd done at Georgia Tech, turn around a program from bad to great. After taking over as an interim for the Yellow Jackets in 1994, O'Leary pumped life back into a Georgia Tech program that had been a national champion as recently as 1990. His 1998 team went 10-2 and beat Georgia. In '99, he coached the Jackets to a win over Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl. He was the National Coach of the Year in 2000. So, hopes were high for a quick turnaround for the Irish. But questions began to arise quickly. A reporter researching a biographical story about O'Leary called the University of New Hampshire for information about O'Leary's playing days there. His biography said he'd been a 3-year letterman on the football team. The school's sports information director informed the reporter that O'Leary had never played a game there. O'Leary offered to resign after that inaccuracy came to light, but Notre Dame's athletic director refused. But there was more to come. O'Leary had also been listed that he'd received a master's in education from NYU Stony Brook, a university that did not exist. O'Leary confessed he'd only taken a few classes at Stony Brook and had not received his master's degree. Having already met with Notre Dame players and talking to them about honesty and loyalty, well, the lies in his bio were contradictory to what he professed and was preaching to his players, and at that point, Notre Dame demanded his resignation, and an embarrassed O'Leary issued a mea culpa. He said he padded his resume from the beginning with inaccuracies, and he just never got around to correcting it. Further research into the issue showed that O'Leary had embellished his credentials going back to 1980, when he was hired by Syracuse as an assistant. O'Leary resigned December 14th. After a short stint with the Minnesota Vikings as an assistant to Mike Tice, He returned to coach college football at Central Florida in 2004. He spent 12 years there, with his best season being 2013, guiding the Knights to a 12-1 record and a win over Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl. On this day in 1977, Kermit Washington punched Rudy Tomjanovich, nearly killing him during a game between the LA Lakers and the Houston Rockets. It was a moment that changed both men's lives in an instant. In the first minute of the second half, a missed shot by the Lakers was rebounded by the Rockets, and John Lucas started a fast break the other way. Trailing the play was Houston's Kevin Coonard and LA's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Washington. At midcourt, Washington grabbed Coonard by the hip to slow him down. In return, Coonard elbowed Washington in the face. It seemed inadvertent, but when Washington turned around, half expecting an apology from Coonard, he got another shot to the face. At that point, a fight ensued between the two guys. Kareem jumped in between them, and he was attempting to pull Coonard away from the fight when Rudy Tomjanovich came running toward midcourt to help his teammate. Seeing Tomjanovich out of the corner of his eye running at him, Washington planted and threw a punch, smashing Rudy T's nose. Tomjanovich hit the floor, still conscious but dazed, with his ears ringing and blood gushing from his nose. Later, it was determined Tomjanovich's injury was similar to being thrown from a car going 50 miles per hour. The punch broke his nose, fractured his skull, damaged his teeth, and spinal fluid leaked from his brain. In the immediate aftermath, Tomjanovich had facial reconstruction surgery and did not play the rest of the season. Washington received a $10,000 fine and a 26-game suspension. He felt abandoned and alone when the Lakers traded him to Boston later that year. Loneliness, heckling, and threats accompanied him for the rest of his career as well, as he bounced around the league to San Diego and Portland. He was an All-Star in 1980 with the Blazers, and then he was out of the league for 5 years before coming back to play 6 games with Golden State before retiring for good in 1988. He's rewatched the video clip a few times since, and he says he does not recognize the guy throwing that punch. In a moment of self-reflection, Washington said, "Hollywood could not have made an uglier monster of me. I could sort of see myself in there, but it wasn't me." Tomjanovich returned the following season, and he averaged 19 points a game, but did have lingering effects from the punch, eventually retiring in 1981. A lawsuit between the two teams was settled out of court in 1979. Rudy T would return to the court, however, taking over as head coach of the Rockets in 1992, winning back-to-back NBA championships in 94 and 95. And on this day in 1935, University of Chicago running back Jay Berwanger won the first Heisman Trophy. And like a lot of guys back then, he played both offense and defense. In the 35 season, he rushed for 577 yards, passed for another 405, amassed 359 yards in kick returns, he scored 6 touchdowns, and kicked 5 PATs. Maybe more impressive is that of 107 players who played against Berwanger in 1935, 104 of them said that he was the best halfback they'd ever played against or seen. Berwanger would also become the first player ever drafted to play in the NFL when the Philadelphia Eagles picked him first in the draft in February 1936. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. A Charlie Brown Christmas is credited with saving the live Christmas tree tradition. When the classic made its debut in 1965, artificial trees, more specifically aluminum trees, were becoming more the norm. After Chuck railed against the over-commercialization of Christmas in the Christmas special and opted for a real, albeit small, droopy, real tree, sales of aluminum trees dropped dramatically, with people opting for live trees instead. By 1967, just 2 years following the debut of A Charlie Brown Christmas, aluminum tree production had mostly dried up, and by 1970, sales were nearly non-existent. That's all I've got for you today. I'll have more tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.